Our friend Dr. Tracy Alloway is back, and today we're talking about social anxiety with children. And right now, with the pandemic, a lot of kids are experiencing more stress than usual. So we have a ton of questions with this, and I know we addressed it about a year ago when this started, but it's always good for a refresher on really what parents can do and actually what kids can do. So welcome back, and where do we start with this topic?
I think the first thing to remember as a parent is that the mask can also add a lot of anxiety to the children. Not so much just because of the physical effect of wearing them, but because it's a lot harder for them to understand social cues when they are communicating with their peers. If you think about it, we are very expressive as humans. We use our body language to talk, and when half your face is covered, some of the children may experience anxiety, but they may not even know how to tell you as a parent, simply because they don't know how to interpret what their friends are saying to them.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially with younger kids, because they might not be as verbal to begin with, so they're looking for those expressions, the social type of cues that are nonverbal. So I totally get that. Now, as a parent, what are some things that we should look out for where our kids are starting to kind of isolate themselves even more?
There are two clear signs that I try to communicate to parents as a licensed psychologist. And the first is to look for self-soothing behaviors. And some of those behaviors include a lot of touching, maybe their hands or their face or even hair twirling. Now, the key to remember here as a parent is this more frequent than your child usually does? So if they're a hair twirler, then don't look for that as a sign. But if they're doing those behaviors more frequently than usual, that's a good clue that they need to find a way to calm themselves down.
Is there anything else, any other cues that you recommend that would kind of keep an active eye out for?
Look at their behaviors. So children can engage in what's called internalizing behaviors, so they start withdrawing a lot more. So if your child is usually excited to share school with you or what's happening in their day, but they now shift to, it's fine, it's okay, that's a good cue for an internalizing or withdrawing behavior. But the converse is true too. So you may start noticing your child engage in a lot of externalizing behaviors that kind of more hyperactive than usual or even more aggressive than usual.
And that's tricky because with kids, every day is a little bit different, even if you're not in a pandemic. I know for like teenagers, for example, sometimes you'll ask, how was your day? And you'll get one word, fine. That's actually a majority of the time. And then other times they'll really lighten up and they'll go into a ton of detail on things. Let me ask you this, when is it time to really take it to the next level and seek professional help like yourself?
I think it's important to, first of all, have that conversation with your child, but approach it in a very relaxed environment. So as a family, if you like going to the park together, or if you're having, a meal out together or going for a walk on the beach, use that as a casual, low-key time to start asking them, here's some highlights of my day. What are some highlights from your day? And then begin to look for signs there. And it's never too late, it's never too late or too early to seek help, even if all it is them just opening up to someone just to say, this is kind of a rough year for me.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I like the idea of having a safe environment. It might be a car ride where it's just you and one child, or a bike ride or something like that where you could really get that one-on-one and they can open up. So that's important. Any tips for kids out there to help them cope with what's happening right now?
I think for children that are especially struggling with this difference in social interaction, teach them ways in which they can engage with their peers that maybe don't rely on the full facial expressions. So what we call micro expressions. Do they notice their friends' brows furrow when they get angry, for example? You can even look at the feet. If your friend's feet are turning away from you, that's an easy cue that they maybe don't want to have that conversation anymore. And so picking up those signs early can maybe help minimize some of the frustration in social situations too.
Yeah, these are all great tips. And again, it's kind of like a refresher because we talked about this about a year ago, and here we are. We're moving forward, we're making progress, but there's still that isolation, and we just want to do our part and make sure that we are helping out our kids and noticing the changes, what's happening. Tracy, if people want to learn more about you, how can they do that?
My website, tracyalloway.com. Lots of great resources, including our interviews that we do together here, Mark.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Discover the Deep Clean Persil discs. They remove not only visible stains, but even invisible dirt.